Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jane Lewis, a marketing manager at Perficient, and I'm excited to be moderating today's webinar on Amazon Connect, 4 Steps to Transforming Your Customer Contact Center. In today's session, we will learn about Amazon Connect, a cloud-based contact center that simplifies the delivery of exceptional customer service. We are recording today, and we will be sure to email you with information on how to access the recording after the session. Time permitting, we will answer questions at the end of the presentation, so please type those into the chat box in your lower left-hand corner. In a moment, I'll hand it over to our speakers, but first let me give you a quick overview of Perficient. Perficient is the leading digital transformation consulting firm serving Global 2000 and enterprise customers throughout North America. With unparalleled information technology, management consulting, and creative capabilities, Perficient and its Perficient Digital Agency deliver vision, execution, and value with outstanding digital experience, business optimization, and industry solutions. We have a broad network of locations across the U.S. as well as offshore facilities in India and China. We deliver digital experience, business optimization, and industry solutions that cultivate and captivate customers, drive efficiency and productivity, integrate business processes, improve productivity, reduce costs, and create a more agile enterprise. A couple quick facts about Perficient. We were founded in 1997, and we are a public company with more than 3,000 employees. We form strategic partnerships with each of the major technology vendors and also have dedicated solution and industry practices. And now a little bit about our speakers. Dora Hodenich is a Unified Communications Engineer at Perficient, currently focused on contact center solutions with Amazon Connect. Dora has been helping customers to successfully deploy and maintain contact centers for several years. She has spent the majority of her time focusing on solving problems, doing technical research and development, as well as training. Michael Greenlee is a director in Perficient's customer care practice. Michael has been working with contact center and customer care technologies for the last 10 years and is the author of a technical book and numerous blog posts on communication platforms. And now I will hand it over to Michael.
Thank you, Jane. I'll just start with an overview of our agenda for today. We're going to take a couple minutes to talk about where Amazon Connect fits into some trends in the contact center industry. Then we'll discuss Amazon Connect itself, how it was created, and 4 steps that we see clients go through in successful implementations. And at the end, we hope to have quite a lot of time for questions. And on that note, I just wanted to do a quick poll to see what people are most interested in hearing and learning in today's webinar. So if you could take a minute and fill that in, whether you're interested in the basics of Amazon Connect, the features available in the product, customization, CRM or ticketing system integration, migration process, comparing other solutions, or just innovation. That way we can focus the content on what people are most interested in hearing about. I'll just wait a couple seconds for people to fill that out. Okay. So it looks like a lot of people are interested in just learning the basics of Amazon Connect and what features are in the product, and another substantial number are interested in customer care innovation and comparing to other solutions. So we'll make sure to cover both of those areas. I think we'll have a good amount of time for questions as well if there are things that we don't cover. Before we get into Amazon Connect itself, I wanted to talk about why Perficient is focusing our customer care practice on this product. And what we've seen is over recent years, there have been some huge, although gradual shifts in how contact centers work and how organizations use them. And we feel that Amazon Connect is the best contact center tool to fully take advantage of those changes and respond to them rather than just working around them. Call centers used to be very siloed parts of a business and really all about efficiency and reducing costs. The first call centers were created around the beginning of the 20th century to deal with efficiently handling the manual workload of connecting telephone calls. And so it was specialized, expensive technology. It was a separate part of the business with call center employees, call center managers. Either you worked in a call center or you didn't. And the focus was on minimizing the cost of performing these workloads. And that's changed a lot in recent years. The idea of the contact center has expanded a lot beyond the bounds of what were traditionally contact center domains. And it's now more of a set of tools and practices that organizations use to deal with requests and the needs of their customers. And that expansion has been enabled by a number of different factors. For one thing, there's reduced operating costs. Technologies like IP telephony, unified communications, and cloud or software-based contact centers have made it possible for companies to use these tools and practices in other parts of their business. And now they can focus on not just efficiency, but we're seeing now there's this other goal alongside efficiency, which of course is still important. But now there's an added focus on customer satisfaction, customer retention, and even customer engagement, meaning proactively reaching out and keeping a finger on the pulse of what's going on with customers, what their opinions are, what their needs are, what they're thinking and feeling, and then being able to offer things proactively that people want, as well as to use the contact center to bring in valuable and actionable insights about what's going on with customers and potentially bring in more business that way. Another thing that we've seen is the traditional technology model and the traditional staffing model of the contact center has kind of been reversed. So whereas in the past, companies would go out and buy a call center solution, and that would be their primary app for call center agents who would be full-time taking calls or chats or whatever from customers. Nowadays, we see more and more companies going and getting a line of business app, CRM, ticketing, something like that, and then turning on contact center features within that application, either an embedded contact center feature or integrating a third-party system to their CRM app, their ticketing app, whatever. And at the same time, you have more and more people that are not full-time call center agents that are handling calls or communications with customers through those tools. A lot of larger companies like Amazon have used this to raise the bar for what's expected now in customer service. They've raised people's expectations of what baseline customer service and customer care looks like. And at the same time, there's more opportunities for innovation. Companies can set aside some of the more traditional things that aren't maybe serving their business needs and instead structure customer care using these tools around what's meaningful to them. So those are a lot of, in many ways, positive changes, but in some respects, the technology hasn't fully caught up with the different approach that we see nowadays. And in our customer care practice, we often talk with customers that feel like they're locked into doing things in a prescribed way by the system they're using, whether it's a legacy on-premises call center system or whether it's a cloud contact center. So this could be a particular way of doing IVR menus or queuing logic or reporting, but it's not the way that they want and it's not the way that their business works. And so sometimes companies will stick with an older on-premises contact center solution or move to one even in order to get the customization options that they want, or the options for security, reliability, privacy, data retention that are required by their business. But the problem they have then is now they have these additional needs around maintenance, and they have to maintain this specialized set of technical skills that really are a separate silo that aren't that important in other parts of the business. Amazon Connect, in our opinion, allows you to break free of those limitations, get out of that sort of dilemma of having to choose between customization and simplicity. And because it's a cloud-based contact center, and it's also a service within AWS, it's possible to integrate with other AWS services, Lex, DynamoDB, Lambda, and others, to do exactly what's appropriate for your business and the customer care experience you want to build, but without having to maintain technical silos and without having to develop these additional technical skills and things like that, while using skills that you're probably already using in other parts of your business. So basically, we feel like Amazon Connect is the first contact center solution that democratizes both the basic table stakes of getting a contact center up and running and the ability to innovate on top of that and customize your solution for your business at the same time. And that's why Perficient has built a new practice on Amazon Connect and why we see such opportunity there. I'm going to turn over now to my colleague Dora to talk a little bit about Amazon Connect itself and how it got started and what features it has.
Thank you, Michael. There's a lot we can learn from Amazon and their customer obsession. Their mission is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. But to better understand Amazon Connect, let's see how Amazon found the perfect match for their contact center. Around 10 years ago, Amazon started looking for a contact center platform that would fit their specific customer care needs. They needed a system that could handle a lot of inbound communications from their global customers. They also needed a solution that's scalable. And let me give you an example of that. Did you ever think about how Amazon handles the holiday season? They're able to service their customers efficiently in the holiday season because they're able to scale up and down in just a matter of days. They wanted something that's easy to integrate with other systems using the same technology they were already using and having people trained in. So in other words, they were looking for a solution that's open for integrations. Now, when a company is running at that scale, you can imagine how they needed a platform that's highly scalable but also reliable. And let's also not forget, they needed something simple and easy to use for their agents. And after researching the market, to their surprise, they didn't find any products that would fit their needs. So you can imagine where I'm going with this, because they built it. They built a cloud-based contact center platform that was matured and stabilized under high call volume. And Amazon Connect is exactly that, a cloud-based contact center platform that is based on the product that Amazon uses internally. Now, let's go through some of the product features. Amazon Connect can handle inbound and outbound telephony services out of the box. It's got all the basic features that you would expect to see from a contact center. It's got the skills-based routing, IVR menus, call recordings, and metrics. The IVR menus include Amazon's R&D work on natural language processing and speech synthesis to allow for the next generation of call menus. Your classical DTMF menu is available as well. Amazon Connect provides both real-time and historical metrics. Well, in essence, Amazon Connect provides all those features that you would need to run a basic cloud contact center. Because it's cloud-based, we're looking into many advantages here. So with Amazon Connect, you get your telephony services out of the box through Amazon's partnership with carriers, meaning that you get your phone numbers right away. There's no need to engage a third-party telephony provider, nor do you need to bring in your own telephone lines. There's no on-premise equipment, which means there's no on-premise hardware to manage because everything runs on the AWS cloud behind the scenes. Now, agents, on the other hand, only need a workstation and a headset, or possibly a laptop, whatever is more convenient. So there's no need to install any software to get the agent started. They can simply start taking calls through browsers that support real-time telephony. And Amazon Connect is available globally. Because it's cloud-based, you can scale up or down within minutes without worrying how are you going to deploy 5 new servers or how are you going to decommission some old equipment. Using AWS regions and availability zones, disaster recovery is handled entirely behind the scenes. Now, before we get started with our 4 steps to transforming the customer contact center, we'd like to take a moment to hear from you. We'd like to understand what type of contact center are you currently using. So we'd like to now ask you to take a minute to vote for your options and let us know what you're currently using. Is it maybe a traditional on-premises contact center? Is it a cloud contact center? Or a system within another app, for example, CRM, Amazon Connect, none currently, or something else? We'll take a moment to take responses. Thank you everyone for voting. So it seems like majority of our audience is currently using an on-premise contact center. So I imagine that the biggest difference you'll notice as we go further through this lecture is the ease of setup and deployment with Amazon Connect. But also what's interesting is the ability to integrate with almost anything. All right, let's dive into our 4 steps. Step 1 in the contact center transformation is to take the advantage of the 5-minute contact center deployment. And yes, it is just that simple. So to deploy a brand new instance of Amazon Connect, all you need to do is log in to the AWS Management Console, which is showing on the left-hand side, click on Amazon Connect, and then get started. That's literally it. You fill in some basic data, and things happen in the background, and you get yourself a call center. So you literally can start taking calls in minutes. Now, to really get started with that and to take your first call, you would actually first select a phone number in order to receive inbound contacts or to make outbound contacts. As I mentioned before, to get the agents started, you would simply equip them with a browser and a headset, or mic and speakers if they are on a laptop. And that's it. The call would be handled entirely through the browser-delivered soft phone. So if we take a look into the picture on the slide, you can see how the soft phone interface is really simple. This snapshot shows an agent in the available state, which means that the agent is either waiting for a call or can dial out. So with that in mind, you'll be able to plan for less time required on agent's technical training. But there still will be a certain training component needed anyway, which is probably not going to be that technical, but more focused on the business process itself. So Michael is going to explain a bit later how to make sure that the agents can adapt to this new situation. All in all, agents will have to worry less on how to take calls, and they'll be able to keep focus on actually helping the customer. So there really isn't any other overhead to get running with a basic cloud contact center. By now, you probably realized that Amazon Connect is very different. And let's discuss why is that. So the pricing model is very unique. When Amazon was looking into the contact center products maybe 10 years ago, they found that the pricing was very complex. So some of the more classical payment methods were, for example, pricing per seat count plus paying for add-ons. But with Amazon Connect, you can set up easily X amount of agents in the system and pay absolutely nothing until they actually start taking calls. So Amazon Connect is priced entirely based on usage, or in other words, it's priced pay as you go. And the pricing comes from the telephone usage per minute, plus any other costs for additional AWS services used. For example, if you're using call recordings, additional S3 storage rates may apply. That's also the case for Lex and Lambda usage. The next big Amazon Connect differentiator is their powerful IVR engine, or the contact flow engine. This is the flagship feature of this product, which brings us to step 2 in our contact center transformation, which is personalized experience. Because you can dynamically change parameters in the IVR, you can go very personal and approach every caller individually. For example, if you have a simple record of your callers' numbers and names, maybe even a list of last calls, why not go with the individual approach and greet your callers with their name? Can you get more personal than saying something like, "Hello, Mark. Thank you for reaching out to us. I can see that you last called regarding our support services. Would you like us to put you back in touch with support, or can we help you out with something else?" Well, not only this is very personal to each caller, but it also preserves valuable context. And with that, you're showing your callers that you appreciate their time, so they don't have to repeat the topic of their last conversation over and over. With that example in mind, it's easy to see how it's possible to leverage the existing integration with Amazon Lex for self-service flows and natural language conversations. Note that self-service flows can greatly help with freeing up agents' time from repetitive tasks, allowing for more time to focus on specialized customer service. And another part of personalization requires a bit more advanced work that we will cover in step number 3 in our transformation journey. So we already mentioned some of the differentiators listed a bit lower on the slide, whereas Amazon Connect is very different in how easy it is to deploy and scale, because in this case, we're talking about hours, days, and weeks instead of months and months to deploy a system and go live. So on the left-hand side, you're looking into a fresh web admin interface of Amazon Connect. And it is just a few hours to get from the screen to a basic call center by just following the steps that are shown in the picture. And going from there, you can move on to some more advanced integrations and customizations, as there's definitely more room for you to innovate for your customers. The creator of Tesla said, and I'm paraphrasing this, that good ideas always seem crazy until they just work. And although it may seem a bit abstract, this really brings us closer to the point where we can innovate and be different for our customers. We have all these tools available. There's no better time than now to differentiate your business. So what is it that you can do with Amazon Connect that goes beyond the basic call center? This is the third step in our contact center transformation. Let's discuss how do we go beyond. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, there's a lot you can achieve with the contact flow engine, which is their IVR editor. And even with the out-of-the-box functionality, you can make intelligent routing decisions based on, for example, time of the day, or caller priority, or conditions in your call center. And if we enhance this with a few intelligent scripts, which in AWS terminology are called lambdas, this opens a lot of doors. Not only can we route calls better, but we can automate many tasks that would traditionally require additional overhead. Another way to go beyond and stay connected to your customers is to add notifications through email and SMS. Now, integrating with an email system with your call center may seem difficult, but if you take advantage of the AWS services, it's just a matter of deciding what do you want to type in the email rather than how are you going to send it. And the same applies to SMS as well. So imagine this example. You can provide an easy self-service menu where the caller could activate a subscription and get an SMS confirmation as a result. Let's hear another example. Let's say that you're working through an issue with your customer, and this often means that a customer will be able to provide some kind of data to you to help you resolve through their issue. So why not send SMS or email updates as soon as a trouble ticket changes status? This would provide customers with more visibility, but it would also help reducing the resolution time. So definitely both sides can benefit from that. Also, even in the basic suite, you can easily set up the callback functionality, which is definitely going to help you to go beyond, because callbacks are great mechanisms as they make sure that your callers don't wait for a long time in a queue while making sure that their place in the queue is still kept. Meaning as soon as an agent is available to handle a type of contact, the customer will be called back. Implementing callbacks with Amazon Connect allows you to create the same type of call experience that you would use for a normal call. You can still use a personalized greeting if you'd like, and maybe even pop some help text to your agents. This is quite different than having agents manually go through a list of voicemails and returning calls one by one manually. Another component of the next level contact center is getting feedback. In Amazon Connect, this can be done by creating a special survey flow that will gather your customers' feedback. Let's not forget the power of reporting and metrics in improving your contact center experience. In addition to basic real-time and historical metrics, it's possible to stream out call data, in other words, CTRs, contact trace records, and agent data to storage to create custom reporting. The streaming usually takes advantage of additional AWS services such as Kinesis Firehose and Kinesis Streams. Customized reporting can help out greatly with real-time staffing adjustments, planning for peak call volume, and identifying what is your peak call time, so on and so forth. Now, I mentioned this before. You can absolutely go beyond the classic call center and automate entire tasks using self-service flows. These use artificial intelligence and natural language understanding. Now, I'm not saying we should get too creative here, but some very good self-service examples are actually quite simple, such as resetting a password or maybe scheduling a delivery. Or if you want to go a bit more advanced, an example would be rescheduling time with your ride-sharing service. It is convenient to identify some use cases where the agents would have to spend time performing a repetitive task while keeping the customer on hold. Let's see if you can give that a try via self-service. But also make sure to offer the option to get to the agent if something goes wrong. And in that case, don't forget to pass the context as well. Now let's take this to the next level. What if you need to go more custom and adjust to the system that you're already using? Within the context flow editor, you can easily call custom code and perform data dips. It's also not uncommon that companies nowadays use a CRM system for managing their customer relationships. A call center and a customer relationship system definitely need to be talking to each other. This is where Amazon Connect CRM integrations come in place. There are already numerous integrations for Amazon Connect available out there, but it's from a number of different vendors. Some of the well-known ones are Salesforce, Freshdesk, Zendesk, etc., but the list doesn't end there. You name it, and the integration probably exists or is being built as we speak, or it can be built. There's a number of things that you can do by integrating with these systems. You can perform lookups and pull some data into the IVR or show it to the agents, or you can stream some valuable data out. Amazon has provided an API that you can use to embed their soft phone, which is called CCP, Contact Control Panel, to your own application if you'd like. This particular tool is helpful if you need to go very custom. For example, with this approach, you can have your agents answer Amazon Connect handle calls, but through a CRM interface, ticketing system, or another application of your choice. I also mentioned another type of integration where you could push call data out to a third-party system or create some automated records as a result of self-service transactions. Another component of the advanced customization is definitely the whole AWS ecosystem. This is where the true power is, as the contact center is just one building block of the whole customer care experience. And our Amazon Connect blog has many in-depth posts on how to take advantage of this contact center platform. So you'll be able to find even more use cases over there. Now, I'll hand it back to Michael to discuss about a particularly interesting integration with Microsoft Dynamics. And he'll tell you a bit more about what is the final step in your contact center transformation.
Thank you, Dora. One of the things that Perficient is focused on with our Amazon Connect practice in 2018 is integrating Amazon Connect into Microsoft Dynamics 365. Microsoft has these productivity tools that are all over the place, they're ubiquitous, and so we think that that's a natural integration to make. I was talking earlier excuse me, about this idea of reversing some of the tools that people have traditionally used for contact centers. And I think this is an example of that. The idea is people that are using Dynamics, for example, as their main line of business application in working with customers, rather than have to shift over to a different application to take calls and go back and forth, they can get the Amazon Connect Agent Console directly embedded in the Dynamics UI. And then they can receive those calls through Dynamics. They can transfer them, put them on hold, or whatever they need to do right in the app they're already using. And that can also include things like screen pops, meaning when a call comes in, immediately they get whatever the relevant record is, a lead or account or contact or whatever, with all the information that they can then use to handle that call, rather than having to go and search for it once the call is already connected. Afterwards, we can also push data back into the CRM system, and that way you have an automated record that this call has taken place, rather than having to rely on people to remember to do that. And lastly, I think in some ways this is just as interesting as everything else, is having the ability to enable some self-service tasks without ever having the call reach an agent. So using data about customers and Dynamics or other systems, creating these self-service IVR menus where people can get information on their trouble ticket or case or order or whatever it is that they want, and even make some changes or perform tasks without that having to go through to a person. And that way the agents themselves can focus on what's really their primary function, which is connecting with people that are calling and helping them with the more complex or ambiguous things, and potentially building a better relationship with the customer. And I was talking earlier about customer engagement and being proactive, and this is one of those areas where I think Amazon Connect allows you to transcend some of the traditional boundaries of what a contact center would do. So rather than just waiting for someone to call in again, you can also, while they're on, you can potentially ask them, would you like an SMS or an email once this is updated or once the outage is concluded or something like that. And that way, not only do you give them the information they want at the moment, but you potentially allow them to get things in the future without having to call in again and tie up an agent. So we think there's a lot of interesting opportunities there, and you'll see some things coming out from us related to Dynamics integration, some freely available, some subscription-based over the coming months. So no call center migration or really any technology change would be complete without asking what could go wrong here and planning for those things. Amazon has done a great job of eliminating or mitigating most of the technical risks that come with migrating to a new call center. But of course, there are always human factors involved, and it's probably impossible to eliminate those, but we believe that there are ways to mitigate them, to move to a new call center system with reduced risk. And that's a big part of our focus when working with customers, is to help them make that migration happen without having to worry about things going awry or lost business or lost time. And these are a few ways that we've found in our experience of doing that. The first one is just understanding the new system and how it fits with your requirements. And that may seem obvious on the surface, but there are a few specific things that we like to do to make that happen. So for instance, we believe in doing the migrations in stages and starting with usually a pilot, picking out a small group as much as possible that can move over to the new system and seeing the results from that, and then gradually moving on to other groups. And we find that as much planning as you do in advance, almost always there are some requirements that come up once people are actually using the system. So rather than try to plan around that with more and more planning, we believe in just seeing the feedback from the first pilot cutover and incorporating that into later cutovers. Another one is planning for and having a way of avoiding outages. And Amazon Connect makes this a lot easier because of the reliability of the solution. The effort Amazon has put into making that work, even just over the years that they used this same technology internally. But often there will be other dependencies, whether they're systems that you're integrating Amazon Connect with, or whether it's just your network infrastructure, audio devices, things like that. So we believe it's important to know those places where things can go wrong, to have a plan for dealing with them and know exactly who's going to implement it. A part of that also is simplifying integrations. The more dependencies you have on other things, the more places there are for something to go wrong. And so we encourage people to look for ways to move more workloads for the contact center into AWS services where possible, and where it isn't, to try to simplify the integration points and make sure that as few things can go wrong there as possible. Another few things. One is automating as many of the tasks as possible. That might sound counterintuitive because it means more technology to create, but part of this is realizing that the technology isn't the only point of failure, and the fewer things that agents have to learn how to do that are new to them, the easier it will be for them to ramp up and focus on the parts of their job that are transferable. And it also makes for more job satisfaction. If you can create, if you can use some of the Amazon services like Lex to create self-service options and automate some of the things that are essential to a caller, but very, very repetitive to an agent who otherwise deals with them multiple times per day, then you free up that person to have more of a human connection with the caller. And you can also make their jobs easier by giving them context on the conversation they're going to have, so they don't have to scramble around and use up time on the line to figure out who's calling them and why. Reports are a key part of any contact center, and in fact, you could argue that it's not a contact center without reporting. A lot of people, I think, would say that. But surprisingly, we find that in our experience with contact center migrations, oftentimes this kind of gets sidelined till the end of the migration process, and people will take a cursory look at the beginning, and then they won't look at reporting again until after the cutover. So we think it's important to plan through those requirements at the beginning, involve the people that will use reports, and make sure they're going to get what they want, and that whatever customization is needed is part of the process. And we also think it's important to keep track of how the cutover and migration itself is going, have some reporting plans and ways of collecting feedback during that process, so you can identify some trends, both with callers and contact center agents, and address those minor issues that are inevitable as part of the migration process, rather than letting them fester and get bigger. And that leads to the final and probably most important part of this, which is keeping the agents happy. We've seen so many contact center migrations go poorly because of agents either having trouble with the system or not cooperating because they haven't been given adequate training or enough of an understanding of the benefits to them. So when we work with clients, we help make sure that they're providing training in bite-sized pieces that are relevant to what people are doing at the time. Make sure that the user experience is as simple as possible, which again, as Dora mentioned earlier, Amazon Connect makes much easier. and that they understand how the new technology connects to their job needs, their responsibilities, and their job satisfaction, so that they're on board with that process. I'll take a quick minute to talk about some of Perficient's offerings on Amazon Connect, and then we'll have some time for questions. So these really kind of map to the 4 steps that Dora was talking about earlier. When you're starting out, it's just a matter of getting the table stakes in place, getting what you're doing today working on Amazon Connect. And one of the great things about Amazon Connect that Dora alluded to is that you can get this set up really easily. And if you're just doing the basics, you can probably do it yourself. So we don't believe in creating a dependence on our services. We like to make sure our clients know how to do things themselves. And we work with organizations that want to get the most out of their investments in Amazon Connect and the rest of AWS to differentiate and innovate on customer care. And the basics you can generally handle internally, and we provide training and other services to help with that. So pilot rollout helps with that first step, pilot to production to take it to other groups and start building in the functionality you need for those. Adoption management helps with the migration process and reducing risk while making it go smoothly with the agents and customers. And then once you're ready to innovate, we offer custom development and integration services to tie into other systems or see what's possible that wasn't before, that will further your business goals. Before we get into questions, we have a giveaway that was generously contributed by Plantronics. It's a Voyager 8200 headset. So we'll be randomly choosing someone who joined the webinar today, and we'll arrange shipping directly. And now we have some time for questions. So I know people were interested in some of the basic functionality. If there's anything we didn't cover, feel free to ask about what features are available. We can talk about those, or comparisons to other solutions, or any more innovative things that you're interested in. So I'll hand over to Jane now to take questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. So the first question that we received, is there any restriction with customer serving locations? In other words, is it restricted to North and South America, or even customers in Asia Pacific and Europe can be served too?
Sure. So it's definitely not restricted by geography. You can use it globally. And there's, I believe, 4 AWS regions where Amazon Connect is currently available. And that's Northern Virginia, Oregon, Frankfurt, and Sydney. So you've got all regions covered: Europe, Asia Pacific, and the Americas.
Great. Our next question is, can we use our existing voice over IP handsets with Amazon Connect?
Definitely. In fact, I would say that the standard user experience is taking calls through the web browser. So you just plug in your VoIP headset or handset or whatever other audio device you want, and you're good to go.
Great. The next question is, does Amazon Connect include a chatbot?
You can definitely use the Lex service, for example, to create chatbots through a number of different channels. We can be in touch after the webinar if there's specific chat use cases you have questions about, but that is possible with Lex.
Great. Another question, is there a limitation on user base? Is there a use case that Amazon Connect is able to handle 10,000 plus agent base with 80 million calls a year?
Oh yeah, I mean, going back to one thing that Dora said earlier, Amazon created this based on their internal customer service technology. So if you think about the scale of Amazon helping all of their customers around the world, including during holiday season and other peak periods, it's designed to do that. So all they've done is they've opened up that same technology and made it available to other organizations. So it's definitely designed for reliability and resiliency with large agent bases. And if you have specific questions, again, we can be in touch afterwards to see if you have specific numbers or whatever you want to talk about.
Great. Can you speak to a little bit on how pricing is established?
Sure. So there's usage charges, as Dora mentioned. So it's just based on minutes. And they're unlike a lot of traditional call center solutions. There aren't upcharges for things like supervisor licenses or reporting or call recording. That's all part of it. There are some other AWS services that you need to factor in pricing for. So recordings, for example, go into S3, and so you would factor in the charges for that, as well as if you integrate with other systems, you might have charges for Lambda, for example. But there aren't any upcharges for features. That's the key point.
Great. Can you talk more about the callback feature? What is the caller experience like when this occurs? Is it an automated callback?
Dora, do you want to take that one? Describe how the callback feature works.
Sure. So the callback feature is basically a type of experience that you can use, let's say, instead of a voicemail. Let's imagine this scenario. You call into the call center, and as a caller, you realize that the wait time is 10 minutes to get the first available agent. And that's quite a lot to wait. So instead of waiting, you can, for example, when you find out that information in the IVR, let's say you can press 1 to request a callback. And going from there, Amazon Connect can handle that through a separate call flow and through a separate queue where we would preserve your place in a queue, and then you can just hang up and wait for your call. And let's say that 10 minutes has passed and there's an agent available now to take your request. So in that case, Amazon Connect will automatically initiate the callback, and your caller will be able to get the call back, and the agent will also be able to get their context as if it were a normal call.
Excellent. Thank you, Dora. We have a question about PCI compliance. Does it provide PCI compliance?
Short answer is yes. If there are specific use cases, we could talk about those separately. So obviously, it depends on some of the other systems you integrate with and such.
Great. What if I don't want to use Amazon's numbers? I need to keep using the same incoming numbers. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so that's a question we get quite a bit, and there's kind of two options. Usually, what we recommend people do for the beginning, for a pilot, if they have the ability to do so, is just forward their numbers through the carrier to the Amazon sort of internal numbers that you set up. So you get a number through Amazon Connect, and then you forward your existing number through the carrier to that internal number. And then long term, if you want to move them over, you can port them to Amazon Connect. That's a bit of a longer process, but that's also an option.
Is there a way to handle holidays in Amazon Connect?
We actually have a blog post just on that topic, so we'll make sure the person who asked the question gets an email with that information. But we have a blog post on how to set up holiday calendar, for example, using Amazon Connect. And yes, there is a way to do it.
Great. All right, I think we have time for just a couple more questions. Can you talk a little bit more about what kind of speech analytics options there are?
Sure. I mean, that's probably more a question about other solutions that would integrate with Amazon Connect. So I'm not going to go through all the different third-party solutions here, but there are some that do that. And then you can use the call recordings from Amazon Connect as an input to those, and then tie up the reporting with Amazon Connect reporting later. So we can send over some specific thoughts on that, but there are options to do that through integrations.
Great, and I think we have time for one last question. Can agents transfer directly to other agents?
Yes. Yeah. Dora, maybe you can briefly talk about how that works in the UI. Just a quick summary.
Sure. So with Amazon Connect, it's quite possible to do that through quick connects. You can look into those as kind of like a speed dial, because your agents don't have usually their phone numbers because they're just browser endpoints. So you would set up particular quick connects so that your other agents can access them beforehand and then transfer once that's appropriate.
Excellent. Well, we are getting close to the top of the hour, so we will go ahead and wrap it up. If we were unable to get to your question, we will follow up with you shortly after the session. So go ahead and keep putting those questions in the chat box, and we will be reaching out to you. We encourage you guys to follow Perficient's team online as we have new information added daily. Michael mentioned the blog. We have a lot of great blog posts on our Integrate blog. We also have more information on our Amazon Connect Partners page. So be sure to check those out. While you're on the web page, if you click on the Insights tab, you'll see more about white papers and upcoming webinars. We will also be at Enterprise Connect March 12th through the 15th in Orlando. So if you will also be in Orlando, feel free to reach out. We can connect and grab some coffee, maybe talk about your Amazon Connect options. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much for joining us today.